Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. We're going to talk a little bit more about Leon Black today, folks, and add some more context. Last time we spoke about Leon Black, he was responding to the New York Times article about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And he sent an email out to investors trying to assuage them, trying to make them not so worried about things. But now we're hearing behind the scenes that investors are judging him. See, what happens is you become radioactive when you have the stink of a child sex predator all over you. And that's what Mr. Black has. He was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, very, 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 very much someone involved with Jeffrey Epstein financially, and somebody that these investors understand is not the kind of guy that you want at the head of the company that's in charge of your money. The problems for Leon Black have just begun, folks. His name has just begun to get thrown around in the mainstream about this case. Those of us who have been following it, and I'm guessing pretty much everybody out there listening to the podcast at this point, has known about Leon Black and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein for quite some time. But now, it's finally getting out there into the mainstream. It's finally getting out there where people understand the sort of power players that were involved. We're not talking about one or two sick people here. We're talking about an intercontinental ring of disgustingly rich, disgusting perverts. Now, again, nobody's saying that Leon Black was involved in the direct abuse of these girls. But his financial relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and the transactions between the two, yeah, that brings you into the atmosphere. That brings you into the web. And if you were involved financially, moving money for this man, hiding money for this man, doing trade-offs with this man financially, well, you can expect yourself to be caught up in a Ricoh case. Because from all signs, that's where this is going. And we already have a civil Ricoh case going on down in the Virgin Islands. So it's just a matter of time now, in my opinion, before we see a real Ricoh case. And when that occurs, when criminal indictments start dropping, Ricoh indictments to people that were enabling Jeffrey Epstein, then you know that this case has really kicked it into overdrive. Now, again, I've said before, do I expect all of that to happen? I am not so naive to have that kind of faith in the government, right? I think that for sure, the core four, plus Indyke and Khan, are in serious jeopardy of going to prison. But after that, as far as the enablers go, that's all going to come down to how much courage these prosecutors have and how far they want to take this. Because if they're looking to really get some big feathers in their cap, if they're looking to go big game hunting, well, my friends, this is the reserve to do it in. We know that these prosecutors like to go after the biggest fish in the pond, and who's a bigger fish than someone like Leon Black, or Glenn Dubin, or Bill Richardson? So if they want to go after those people, the way to do it is financially. The question remains, will the prosecution have the courage to do so? Anyway, today in this article, it is about how the investors are now judging Leon Black after that email. So this is in response to the email that Leon Black sent out that we discussed a few days ago. Let's jump into this article from the institutionalinvestor.com and see what they have going on. Apollo's Leon Black paid Jeffrey Epstein millions. Investors are privately judging him. But they're not about to pull money from Apollo. Author Leanna Orr. And that's really what it comes down to, right? That's the cold, disgusting truth of it. For these investors, for these people, it's all about the money. And even if Leon Black has ties to Jeffrey Epstein, or Leon Black is tainted by Jeffrey Epstein, you're going to have some people in the financial sector who look the other way because, hey, it's all about increasing their wealth, increasing their power, increasing their status. And if they have to ride Leon Black's back to do so, that's exactly what they're going to do. But the good thing is, the public is not going to let Leon Black get away with it. The public is not going to sit by while another rich son of a bitch avoids scrutiny. Investors in Apollo Global Management knew that founder Leon Black had a Jeffrey Epstein problem. This week, it became a problem once again when a New York Times investigation revealed new details about Black's relationship with the convicted sex offender, the scope of their financial ties, and Black's back channels for funneling money to Epstein. These payments aren't in dispute. So there's no dispute that this occurred, that Black and Epstein had this relationship. All of this money, up to $75 million, flipped around, moved into charitable organizations, LLCs, etc., etc. And nobody is ever held responsible for any of it. It is true that I paid Mr. Epstein millions of dollars annually for his work, which he provided 2012 to 2017, Black wrote to Apollo clients Monday. We talked about that as well, about the massive amount of money and the real close relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Leon Black. It's not disputable. There is no disputing how close these two were. There is no disputing how connected they were financially either. The $414 billion firm is expected to escape the scandal with assets and client base intact, industry insiders predict. This is thanks to skillful handling, lucky timing, and institutions' reluctance to cut ties with or blacklist a powerful partner, however distasteful they find its CEO's former choice of advisor. And that tells you everything you need to know about the financial sector. You see why I rail about these scumbags on a regular basis? You see why they're so connected in this Jeffrey Epstein case? It's because they're morally corrupt, all of them. These are the same sons of bitches that put it down for those predatory loans that your cousin has and your grandma or your friends. While they're living the high life, popping that bubbly, eating caviar from Russia, and laughing at us the whole entire time. They're not moving their money out of there because, the CEO was palling around with a pedophile. Come on, you guys are going to have to come harder than that. Like, lose us some money, then we'll talk. What an absolute joke. Apollo never did business with Epstein, nor did the now-dead pedophile invest in its funds. Importantly, Black stressed to clients, there has never been an allegation by anyone, including the New York Times, that I engaged in any wrongdoing or inappropriate conduct. Yeah, well, they're all scared you'll sue them. Everybody's scared to talk about people like you. The New York Times wants nothing to do with it. We know the Post is scared. All of these hard-hitting institutions of journalism. Give me a break. Bunch of chump-ass cowards. We've been on this podcast every day for over a year without missing a day, railing about people like Leon Black. And now all of a sudden, the New York Times comes to the party, huh? Pretty funny. Pretty damn funny. And as far as him not engaging in any wrongdoing, well, yeah, none that we know of. Right? Have you provided all of your financial statements for us to see so we know you're not engaged in any wrongdoing? Did you provide those financial statements to the investors? Or are they just taking you on your word? And the only reason they're taking you on your word is because you make money for them hand over fist, probably engaging in all sorts of mischief. But that's where investors and industry insiders might disagree. A half dozen shared their views on the situation this week with institutional investor, including senior staff at pension funds and a major foundation, fundraising experts, and money managers. Most spoke on the condition of anonymity in order to be candid on a delicate subject. Yeah, look, again, I have friends in the financial sector too, and none of them ever want to go on record. Look, they all have cush-ass jobs. They're all making six figures or more. They don't want to screw with that. So yeah, these people don't want to go on record, man. They don't want to lose those cush gigs. And you see that here in this article. And I know it for a fact with people in the financial district. These people are just, they're not the kind of people that are going to go on record and shit on somebody like Leon Black because he wields extreme power in the financial sector. Extreme power. Apollo is a titan of global finance, after all, and Black, its inscrutable chieftain. There's no doubt, Leon Black wields incredible power in this sector and elsewhere. What, you think the guy that runs Apollo doesn't have all sorts of connections all over the place? Doesn't have lobbyists drooling all over themselves to do his bidding? Hell yeah, he does, and more. So if you're coming out on the record against Leon Black and you're working in the and you're working in the financial sector, then you're really putting yourself at jeopardy from a professional standpoint. And who knows about personally, again, these people are above it. These people, that's a stretch too far. Sorry, what I have seen since we've pulled back the curtain of polite society has shown me all I need to know about these people. No one interviewed suggested that Black broke the law in his dealings with Epstein. Yeah, well, because nobody knows, right? We haven't seen the documentation. But I'll tell you what, from the circumstantial evidence that we have seen, and from the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was a known money launderer, that automatically puts you on the map and makes me suspicious of your behavior as well. But to a person, these institutional investors felt that hiring a convicted sex offender is inappropriate for the CEO of a major public company, especially one responsible for billions of dollars of public pensioners and charities' money. Now imagine, you're a police officer or a fireman or somebody that's worked in law enforcement your whole life, and you find out the dude that's in charge of your pension, in charge of the public dollars, hired a convicted child sex offender in Jeffrey Epstein. You would be happy about that as an investor? I know I wouldn't be. I don't care how much money Leon Black is making. There are plenty of great financial institutions without scumbags like Leon Black. Well, at least those scumbags that aren't hanging out with pedophiles, they might be scumbags financially, but at least you're not hanging out with a pedophile and putting your money with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein's buddy. I mean, are you kidding me right now? I would really want to look Leon in the eyes, said one alternatives investor who has worked at elite institutions, and ask him, knowing that this person had been charged with arguably one of the worst crimes you can be charged with, why on earth would you give this guy $50 million? That's what it comes down to. And nobody even has the courage to ask Leon Black that. I would ask him that if I seen this dude in the street, if I saw this dude walking into his building or anywhere else. I would ask him straight up, look, man, why are you giving a convicted sex offender $50 million? There's no other charities to donate that money to. There's no poor people that need that money. You could have just walked around, pick out a poor neighborhood in New York. So I'll give you one, South Yonkers. Go down to South Yonkers off of Saratoga Ave and knock on doors and tell people you're going to pay their rent. That's doing something for people. Giving Jeffrey Epstein, your other rich buddy, $50 or $75 million, what does that do for anybody? And how does that benefit you? Because really, when it comes down to it, Mr. Black, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Your benefit. You increasing your wealth while the rest of us get shit on. I think there's an amazing ability to segment values and objectives in this business. Another veteran of the hedge fund world put it, after triple checking that he wouldn't be quoted by name. It's not my job to be a judge of moral values. It's my job to optimize returns. And that is the thinking. And I know it's hard for some people to imagine. And if you haven't been, used to the financial sector before this, it might come as a shock to you that these people would put returns over moral values. But that's the way it goes in the financial sector. The almighty dollar completely and utterly corrupting these people, body and soul. It's one thing, right, to be good at your job. It's another thing to be an absolute crook and know you're being a crook while you're doing it. The sheer number of hyper-successful financiers and business leaders in Epstein's circle, Black, Highbridge Capital founder Glenn Dubin, Barclays CEO Jess Staley, former lingerie magnate Les Wexner, doesn't excuse any of them individually, interviewees felt, but implicates the whole industry culture. Yeah, no shit. Now everybody wants to pay attention to the financial sector? Now everybody has a problem? Where was everybody in 2008 and 2009? Where was everybody all the way up until last year? Now all of a sudden it's a big problem, right? Now all of a sudden there's a big issue with the culture in the banking industry. It's been like that forever. Now there's just public pressure for them to change it. That's what happens with the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, the FinCEN files, WikiLeaks dumps. That's why they're so important. And that's why it's so important that whistleblowers are protected. There's a tremendous amount of misogyny, of shitbags in this business, said the hedge fund vet, adding that he gets exposed to unfiltered talk as a straight white man. Look, I 100%. I have heard it with my own ears the way these people talk. And I'm not talking about people on Leon Black's level. I'm talking about, run-of-the-mill traders and financiers, etc., etc. It is a corrupt industry. An absolutely cutthroat, take no prisoners, shit on everybody industry. And unless you're a part of that club, you are not worthwhile. Black's personal spokesperson said the CEO simply didn't know about Epstein's sexual criminality and wasn't comfortable with it when he found out, which we addressed in the other article. That's absolute bullshit. You don't got Google? You mean to tell me that Leon Black, one of the richest men in the world, doesn't know how to do a simple Google search? That's what you would have me believe, huh? Okay, I guess so. I mean, since you're telling me that's what I have to believe, Mr. Official Narrative, then I guess that's what I have to believe. I mean, really? Are you kidding me right now? Absolute BS. There is no chance on this earth that Leon Black didn't know what Jeffrey Epstein was. Mr. Black was completely unaware of and continues to be appalled by the reprehensible conduct that surfaced at the end of 2018 and led to federal criminal charges brought against Mr. Epstein, and deeply regrets having had any involvement with him. Not a word about before that. What about all the girls in Palm Beach? What about all the girls at Zorro Ranch? What about all the girls in New York and in Palm Beach and Paris? None of them matter, huh, Mr. Black? None of it matters. Yo, homie, secure the bag. That's all that matters, right? It's disgusting. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these people increasing their wealth hand over fist while the rest of us can't even bring spoon to mouth. The greatest transfer of wealth has just occurred under our noses while we were locked down in our homes, folks. And nobody's saying shit about it. The U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General is seeking information from Mr. Black, several major banks, and others as third-party witnesses in a civil probe of entities set up by Mr. Epstein in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the spokesperson went on. Mr. Black intends to cooperate fully with any such inquiry. Yeah, no shit. He is being compelled to do so. Did he come forward on his own and splash the news and tell us all about Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship? No, he didn't. He's another one of these scumbags that wants this to go away, that would never have brought this up if it wasn't brought up. He doesn't care about the survivors, he doesn't care about justice, and he doesn't care about moving the narrative forward. Not the narrative of justice, I mean. All he cares about is making sure he saves face and that he doesn't lose one single red cent. That is what he cares about. But for all the personal queasiness that Black's choice of financial advisor and reportedly frequent dinner companion raises, no one foresees Allocators doing much about it. Apollo Global Management will be just fine, they felt. Yeah, and again, that's what we can expect from the financial sector. What, you think other serpents are going to abandon the king of the serpents? Hell no, this is normalized behavior to them. They don't care. Means justifies the end. If we're going to make more money, that's cool. We don't care if we're with a sex offender, a pedophile. How much money can we make? How many more cars can we buy? How many more $90 million mansions do we need? That's what matters to these people. You might see some very high integrity organizations say, I don't need this, suggested one senior nonprofit investor. I have looked at Apollo, and that's what I said. But the big allocators will have a long relationship with them and a lot of money invested. She and others predicted that clients would only flee Apollo over Epstein if Black was charged with a crime. There's no indication that's a possibility. That's what they have in parentheses here. And I disagree with that. There's all kinds of indications that where there's smoke, there's fire. You mean to tell me that if this turns into a Ricoh case, that Black's going to be sleeping well? Or is Black going to be on the phone with Mr. I kept my underpants on Dershowitz in a frenzy trying to protect himself? Calling every judge he knows in the circuit, leaning on prosecutors, making sure that the media doesn't run stories on him. You know, the usual shit. Well, there is one thing that they weren't expecting, and that was all of you and all of the content creators out there that are throwing up double middle fingers to these scumbags and making content, airing them out on a regular basis. Because that's what these people are. They're wannabe aristocracy. We don't have no nobles in America, all right? These people want to be our rulers. They want to be the people that make the decisions. Well, they're in for a rude awakening. At that point, she said, allocators can no longer make an excuse. As one hedge fund trader guessed, bottom line, not much is likely to happen other than Black not having a public or client-facing profile for some time. The chaotic, polarized, and pandemic-racked reality of daily American life has deepened the market power of the largest money managers. As individuals and public entities teeter, the likes of Apollo, Goldman Sachs, and Blackstone have never been stronger, according to fundraising pro Andrew Saunders. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know right there, folks? What was I just talking about? They keep getting richer. The wealth gap increases. They become more brazen. They go on more crime sprees. Meanwhile, you and I are told we don't have jobs anymore. Oh, and by the way, Congress, the Senate, they don't know they can't get it together. You're not getting no more unemployment, so I guess you can just eat cake. If that doesn't fire you folks up on top of all this other shit, I don't know what will. But the key is you have to focus that anger, that rage, that anger, that discontentment should not be focused on your neighbors or somebody who votes differently than you. It should be focused squarely on the people who created the circumstances which has led to this misery for so many people. And people like Leon Black is right at the top of my list when it comes to scuzzbags who have their foot on the throat of not only the American people, but the middle class worldwide. We find ourselves in wartime conditions, said Saunders, president of Castle Hill Capital Partners, in an interview Thursday. Major brands and established relationships create an enormous moat around your business. Yeah, look, when you have that kind of established relationship and you've made people billions, literally billions of dollars, they're going to be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt until they see the evidence themselves, literally see you commit the crime. And I think it's gross. I think that there are other managers that you can give your money to that don't have pedophile friends, that we know of anyway. But here we are, stuck with somebody like Leon Black, who was, top-notch boys with Jeffrey Epstein, and he's in charge of all these billions and billions of dollars, huh? Okay. Institutional investors, as a rule, hate scandal and bad press brought on by their money managers and filter for it, so-called headline risk when hiring them. But if a prominent manager is going to have a nasty divorce or associations with a sex criminal dredged up in the paper of record, now's the ideal time. Look, I agree. If I had money with Leon Black right now, I'd be gone. If he was getting a divorce, I could live with it. If there was allegations that he got into a bar brawl, cool, I could live with it. That has nothing to do with my money. But when it comes to something as heinous as this, that's a bridge too far for me. And that's a mountain where I choose to die on because, look, man, if we can't protect children, if we cannot protect children, then what are we doing as a society? Let's just call it a day and go straight Mad Max. Let's just skip the bullshit and get right to it if we're not going to protect the weakest amongst us. But if we want to be a society where people take our laws seriously and people have faith in the system, well, at the very least, we have to start here and start rebuilding by taking down all of these scumbag oligarchs that were in Epstein's orbit. If this was happening outside of the political environment and a pandemic, this perhaps would be more significant than it is, Saunders said, speaking in general terms. And that's what I've said about the Jess Staley situation, right? It hasn't gotten as big of a tomahawk chop as it should because of the pandemic and all of the other shit that's going on. People don't have a shared sense of reality or a shared sense of facts. Lies and accusations are hurled around with tremendous frequency and speed. The president accused a governor of killing babies the other day, and people just shrugged their shoulders. It's very difficult to figure out what's signal and what's noise. Well, that is exactly why we have this podcast, right? For us to wade through the bullshit and get to the gold. Because we can't trust the legacy media to do it. How long have we been hanging on their every word? How long have we waited for them to do their job and bring some justice in this case, or help to bring some justice in this case? It took the Miami Herald having political motivations to get involved for it to occur. And I have to tell you, it's disheartening. The result is you get desensitized, right? You become desensitized to it all because there's so much misery in the world. There's so much noise. There's so much garbage that how can you process it all? And if you sit around and you watch TV on a regular basis and you're watching the 24-hour news cycle and you're watching them pump that rage porn into your homes, forget it. You're going to think the world is ending on a regular basis and you're going to think your neighbors want to kill you. That's legit the kind of message that they're pumping right now. As opposed to figuring out the stuff we get along on, the stuff we agree on, and working from there. No, that's not what they want to do. We're so desensitized to everything that it's all about rage porn, and if it bleeds, it leads. Allocators are inundated, he explained. Few are willing to invest retiree or endowment money with managers they've only met on Zoom, Saunders has found. Even if an endowment took great exception to, for example, Black's relationship with Epstein, and the firm allowed them to cash out, pulling out their money creates another problem. Where would they put it? If allocators are unable to easily go elsewhere and performance is quite strong, things can get lost. Just from a self-preservation standpoint, the brain can't react to every last outrage. Well, this isn't just an outrage, though. This is about children again. See, I guess I look at this differently than some people do. I guess a crime to some people is a crime. But to me, the worst possible crime you can commit is against a child, a defenseless child. Are you kidding me right now? The Black Epstein affair has landed in the laps of institutional investors, and they've broadly set it aside. But not all of them are ignoring it. Ontario's new $70 billion Canadian, $52 billion American investment arm for provincial pension assets, Imco, proudly committed $250 million to Apollo just this past spring, for example. That deal still stands, but Imco has put its partner on notice. Well, that's a good first step, right? How about you pull all your money out and put it somewhere else, but at least someone's putting this dude on blast. Imco is aware of recent reports regarding Mr. Black's alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein, a spokesperson told the outlet Thursday. We hold all of our partners and portfolio companies to the highest ethical standards, both in their private and professional conduct, and take reputational, operational, and financial risks very seriously. So let's see. Let's see what Imco is about. Are they all talk, or are they going to walk the walk? I have them on my list now to keep an eye on. Translation: smarten up, please. Being institutional quality is part of blue chip firms' pitch to clients. Research shows that performance tends to slip as assets balloon, but they don't tend to embarrass their institutional clients. That's worth something. But the Black Epstein affair suggests the trade may be out of whack, even if this episode isn't a fireable offense under normal circumstances. What would an Apollo Blackstone or Bridgewater Associates have to do to get the axe en masse? Crimes industry experts agreed, big ones. And that, my friends, is where the Ricoh charges come in. If say Leon Black got charged with a Ricoh charge, it would be a wrap for him. There'd be no chance. That money would get pulled out of his firm quicker than you can possibly imagine. There would be a run on funds. And there would be the end of these people. Does the prosecution have the courage to do it? At this point, a handful of investment giants have attracted so much institutional capital wrapped up in such stringent terms that firing them ceases to be a practical option. Lavish fees are the carrot for good behavior. But what if there's no more stick? A veteran from One Alternatives investing machine marveled at the dynamic. It's the worst form of too big to fail. It really is sickening, isn't it? And this story, the Jeffrey Epstein story, along with the Panama Papers and the FinCEN files, all of this together builds a very, very disturbing picture of not only our political ruling so-called elite, but it's a damning expose on the financial sector. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. You can all of the links for this episode can be found in the description box. As for me, I will be back later on, and we will pick the conversation up where we left it off. All right, everybody, have a good one.